What's up everyone and welcome to what is going to be an incredibly mechanic and number heavy video. Recently in the Warframe community we've seen a shift in builds and what is considered to be the best scaling way to deal with high level armoured enemies. However, a bunch of that comes on what is slightly faulty logic when it comes to how exactly all the damage mechanics work. We've seen a massive change into focusing heavily on slash procs to do our damage at high level, especially when combined with viral. Problem is, in reality, the viral slash build is really not the best option for the most part, and that is what we're going to look at here. Before we can start diving into slash procs, we need to quickly take a look at exactly how these are calculated. There's a pretty easy calculation that's done where the bleeds are calculated. Basically, it's your base damage times your bleed multiplier. So the base damage of the weapon, that's affected by things like base damage mods, serration, and heavy caliber, for example. But also you've got your faction damage mods in there, like your Banes. This is also where crits come into the fray, headshot damage, and also combo counters factor into everything here too. The bleed multiplier is affected by things like your Bane mods, which is where the double dipping from Banes come from, as well as stuff like headshot multipliers, which also means that those double dip on these slash procs. Now, it's important to note here that mods such as maim or buzzkill, they are not part of the calculation for the damage of slash procs. They do factor into the chance to proc, but not the actual damage. So let's do a bit of a test here. Prisma Grinlock against a level 165 Ancient Healer. We are only going to have a couple of mods on here, which is Serration, Bane of Infested, Point Strike Vital Sense, as well as Shred and Deadly Sequence. Quick thing to note here, Warframe does a thing called Quantizing. Essentially means that on-screen damage numbers can vary very slightly to what they should be, if you straight up calculate them. If you check out this Reddit post by Theroxenes in the description below, they explain it a lot better than I do. So the Prisma Grinlock, we've got a base damage of 187, times that by 1 plus 1.65, which is our Serration, and then times it again by 1 plus 5.4, that's our crit damage, and then times by 1 plus 0.55, which is our Bane mod. This brings our total damage up, per shot, up to 4,915.856. You're actually going to see on screen I'm hitting for 5,258. But that's purely because the healer is weak to slash damage, but that weakness does not affect the proc whatsoever. Then we're going to take that 4,915.856, multiply that by 35 times 1 plus 0.55, that's because our Bane mod is once again coming into it, which comes to 2,654.56, which is only like 2 points away from the damage you can see on the bleed on the screen. And that's basically down to the way the game rounds numbers while it's doing those calculations. So that number looks good, right? Over 2,600 slash per tick. Well, a level 165 Bombard has over 109,000 health. There's only 42 flash procs to kill it. Or 20 if that Bombard's under the effect of a viral proc. And this is in a perfect world too, because in reality, all these viral munition builds have no room for a Bane mod. So if you take that out of the equation, then the reality is quite a lot less. So what does this mean? Well, in reality, it means that the actual elementals and the weapon damage itself is what's doing the majority of the heavy lifting when it comes to actually doing the damage and not the slash procs themselves. This is why both Corrosive and Radiation do so much damage to their respective armoured enemies. Corrosive versus Ferrite, Radiation versus Alloy. The really short and sweet version is they will ignore 75% of the armour of the unit, as well as giving a 75% damage boost, resulting in up to a 600% effective damage bonus based on the total armour of the unit, relative to shooting a damage type with no bonus. So let's take our 165 Bombard. He's currently at full armour, which is Alloy. He's weak to Radiation because of the Alloy armour, which means that firing Radiation at him is going to ignore 75% of his armour. Because he's got so much armour at this stage, we are going to get almost the entire 600% more damage. So firing Radiation at him is going to be the most effective. Now, I feel that this armour ignoring part of the damage of Corrosive and Radiation is one of those that is either just very barely known, or is just often forgotten, and the assumption is that armour always reduces damage. And while in general, yeah, that is true, that is not the whole story, and makes these damage types against their respective heavily armoured targets worthwhile. So why does that mean that Corrosive performs better than the Viral Slash? Well, that's because the Slash is missing multiple key scaling factors. That's pretty much the long and short of it, because Slash procs lack access to elemental mod scaling, as well as losing the majority of the weapon's non-proc damage to armour. They end up being greatly outperformed by builds capable of actually removing that armour. While your Slash procs are ignoring armour, their raw damage potential is limited, whereas a Corrosive weapon, even on a Bombard where it doesn't ignore 75% of the armour, will get stronger for every Corrosive proc that lands on the enemy, meaning its damage goes up, hitting harder for every bit of armour that gets reduced. This means that while Slash has a constant, flat DPS, stripping armour will always come out ahead when it comes to killing armoured enemies quickly at high level, so long as your weapon is capable of proccing Corrosive at a reasonable rate. Let's show a couple of examples here. On the screen you can see the Zhuge Prime. It's a weapon I've done a video on recently, and we're going to be looking at the raw numbers here on Riven.im. I'm going to put the links to all the individual weapons in the description below, so you can check the numbers yourselves as well. This takes basically any of the player out of the picture, focuses purely on actual numbers. It also balances out probability better than showing 1 or 2 runs in the simulacrum does, because of course RNG is a thing. Now the footage for the Zhuge Prime I'm going to be showing on the screen will also be body shots only, just to establish a baseline and show that the numbers from Riven.im do actually translate to what can be physically shown in-game. So let's take a look at the couple of examples, and we're going to start with that Zhuge Prime. Been some discussion over my builds, and I've had some comments on my build video querying why I'm using Corrosive over Slash. So let's look at those numbers. So we start off with the Corrosive build against the Bombards, 30% headshot accuracy, 6.9 seconds with a Corrosive build, and then you've got 7.1 seconds on a Corrupt Heavy Gunner. Whereas if you switch that around into a Viral and Slash build with Hunter Munitions, you end up with 7 seconds on a Bombard, not too bad, and 14 seconds on a Heavy Gunner, basically double. In fact, to overtake the Corrosive build with a Viral Slash Zhuge Prime on a Heavy Gunner, you actually need 100% headshot accuracy, which, let's be real, is 100% never going to happen outside of the simulacrum. Let's switch it up, take a look at another weapon that people love to talk about Slash procs with, the Tigris Prime. This would show the power of the Slash proc here, right? Especially since 100% status for the Viral build, you need to put Radiation and Viral on there too. So that, with the Slash procs, should come out ahead, right? Well, on a Bombard where the Radiation Viral Slash build should be strongest, Corrosive build will kill the 165 Bombard in 2 seconds, whereas the Radiation Viral Slash build takes 5. On a Heavy Gunner, it's virtually no contest whatsoever. Corrosive is the clear winner here, 3.6 seconds versus 14.4. Another weapon I did a video recently on was the Prisma Grinlock, and that also caused some comments over the build, so let's take a look at those raw numbers. Once again, build for the Prisma Grinlock you can see on the screen right now is the one I showed in that video. We've also got that 30% headshot bonus, high crit, augment and corrosive. Now you can see that this will kill a 165 Bombard in on average 8 seconds. Switch it around to Viral, rely purely on the Slash procs and the Viral procs, you will kill a 165 Bombard in 7 seconds. So while this is obviously quicker, it's only half of the story. Let's go back to Corrosive damage, take a look at those Heavy Gunners. Corrosive versus those Heavy Gunners is going to take them down in 10.1. Compare that to the Viral build, which is going to take you 14.1 on the 165 Gunner. So that's nearly 1 second saving on the Bomber, translating into being nearly 4 seconds slower on a Heavy Gunner. This is only at 165. If you spend time in an arbitration, for example, you can get to level 200 actually fairly easily, and the difference becomes even higher. 13.3 for the Corrosive, 21 seconds for the Viral Slash. All the actual numbers here are done with the average of 30% headshot accuracy. The Viral Slash thing is so heavily dependent on those headshot multipliers, and while the very sterile environment of the simulacrum, it's easy to nail those headshots after headshots because you don't fear your own death, you've got invincibility on. The enemies are just wandering slowly towards you, there's no terrain to worry about either. But the reality of the situation is that in-game, your headshot accuracy is nowhere near what you can pull off in the simulacrum. 30% accuracy on the headshot is just under 1 in 3 shots hitting the head, which I feel is a very fair representation of player accuracy in an actual mission. Some may be slightly higher, maybe slightly lower. Honestly, it's not going to be by a whole lot. The most obvious weapon people are going to try and take and say that the slash and viral combo is best is the Prisma Grinlock. And I included that weapon deliberately, and that is it because it requires a 36% headshot accuracy to pull off the Corrosive build. I've had a lot of people talking about the Prisma Grinlock, my build for it, and how my Corrosive build feels better than the viral slash. And it turns out these players aren't aiming for headshots really. The power of viral and slash does come from that double dipping headshot multiplier it gets for that bleed proc. It's actually a weapon that is borderline whether to go corrosive or viral for sure. But if you aren't a player that goes for headshots all the time, it's not going to feel anywhere near as good as the corrosive build, and the corrosive will scale better. A lot of the viral slash videos leave out the fact that you need to nail headshots regularly to make it work, which leads to many players not getting the most out of the weapon, because they didn't realise that's where the true power is. That's the reason I put the Prisma Grinlock in here, because the way the player actually plays this thing shows what's going to be the best build. And even with an average headshot accuracy, it is often going to end up being corrosive. I also hope this video goes a long way to explaining why I feel that Hunter Munitions is rather overrated. Not saying it's completely useless, but it is by no means the all scenario mod people seem to think it is. As soon as you start having a weapon with decent fire rate and even a passable status chance, a corrosive build around either armor type is going to come out ahead of one that basically focuses around viral and slash, especially when that slash is trying to be forced from Hunter Munitions. Look at it this way, take the Prisma Grinlock, right? 94.5% crit when it's fully modded. Then of that 94.5% crit, there's only a 30% chance of it applying a singular slash proc doing 2,600 damage a second. Do you really think that's worth it over something like a Bane mod, for example? Enhancing the natural procs as well as the actual raw damage of the weapon? Or Vigilante armaments for the extra multi-shot and the potential for more procs from that? Both of which are active 100% of the time and are not complete RNG where they do anything or not. Like I say, there are outliers where Munitions is absolutely the best choice, which is normally decent crit, low status weapons, single projectile ones too, for example the Opticore. The Opticore isn't there to proc multiple status effects, so modding it for Munitions for that one very strong armor ignoring proc actually does make it scale better than running corrosive here, because realistically you're not going to be reducing the enemy armor nearly quickly enough. But for the most part, once you get a reasonable fire rate, reasonable status chance, then the corrosive build simply does end up scaling better than a Munitions build. So I guess just to wrap up the video, I hope this has gone a long way to showing just kind of how overrated the viral slash combo is right now, and how it's simply not the best scaling damage type right now. I've been promoting the corrosive builds for a while despite the viral hype, and being one of the very few to be showing off corrosive builds. Since Hunter Munitions came out and the crazy hype around it, the whole viral and slash thing seems to have taken off without taking taking time to step back and properly running the numbers to see whether that is actually deserved. I'm not going to keep you any longer though, however, this video has gone on more than long enough. Let me know any questions or any feedback in the comments below, I am going to be reading them all. But for now, many thanks for watching and I shall catch you in the next one.